the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 brought to an end a terrible conflict that had gone on for a number of years, the Napoleonic Wars, which was fought between a coalition of countries, led really by Britain, against the French, led by Napoleon. The deciding battle was the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, where Napoleon surrendered to British and Prussian forces. When this war actually ended, and they actually looked at the losses, to give a comparison, it was a very similar situation in 1815 to perhaps 1945. The end of a grueling war. The great powers were tired. They'd lost so many soldiers. In fact, the British lost a lot more to disease and the like than actually men who got killed in action. Killed in action was about 25,000. The British suffered many more who died from disease during the Napoleonic Wars. It was incredibly costly and incredibly arduous, and it went on for a long time. There were several phases to the war. And in 1815, the great powers all agreed this can't happen again. And the leading politician in 1815 was Klemens von Metternich, who was the leader of Austria at that time. Metternich was very conservative and reactionary in his views. And he gathered the leaders together in Vienna for a congress, a big meeting, to kind of map out what they were going to do next to prevent someone like Napoleon, an emperor, a warmonger, a war leader, being able to essentially create a world war, create havoc. How are they going to stop doing that? And at the Congress, Britain, Russia, Austria, Prussia, in the main also Italy were there too, agreed on some principles that were going to maintain this peace. And the big thing that came out of it was this idea of the balance of power. And it was an idea. The balance of power was the idea that to prevent one country from becoming more powerful than others, all countries needed to keep things the same as they were. So if one country is getting too powerful, then other countries need to check that. They need to stop that from happening, and make sure that there is a balance, because therefore one country can't think they can attack another and be successful. There will be a just equilibrium, a just balance of power in Europe. And Metternich was a great believer in this theory of the balance of power. So, for example, to counterbalance the threat of France, Metternich wanted a strong Russia and a strong Britain to almost prevent France from pushing outwards. The big thing was they wanted a lasting peace. Of course, he wanted to stop France in particular. And for that reason, he set up a number of different countries in Europe to act as a buffer zone between France and the rest of Europe. So between France and Germany, he set up lots and lots of different little countries, or little states were set up to kind of act as a buffer zone between France and the rest of Europe, the cordon sanitaire, as it was called. Another thing that they decided was to set up a system where they'd hold regular meetings to settle any possible cause of conflict or disputes. And this was called the Congress system. And there were plenty of these congresses throughout between 1815 and 1823. You can see some of them listed on the screen. Ultimately, these faded away over time, but the leaders did regularly meet, and they did avoid any major conflicts in that kind of period from 1815 to 1823, 22. There were no major conflicts at all. So in some respects, the Congress system did work. And what Metternich was after was this concert of Europe, this idea that everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, everybody's working together towards common goals. The question is, in the next 100 years, how do we get to a situation where we have the most devastating war of all time, World War I, involving all the major powers in Europe? Did that mean that Metternich's ideals didn't work because of the politics? What was the fault? What was the problem? And really, in 1815, it all starts here. It all starts with an empire that no longer exists in the world today. Not many empires do. But this one was in decline from 1815 to 1914, in this 100-year period. This empire was in decline. And that was the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was controlled by Turkey. And you can see on the map in 1700, 1750, the territories that the Ottoman Empire has managed to accumulate, huge swathes of land that it's managed to accumulate, that it needs to govern and look after. And by 1815, the Ottoman Empire is in decline. The Ottoman Empire is struggling. It's struggling financially. It's struggling to impose its will on different populations. It's got lots of different religious identities within its empire. So, for example, in Greece, you have Christians. In Egypt, you have Muslims. You have Orthodox Christians. You have Protestants. You have Catholics. In all different parts of this empire, you've got religious differences between peoples. You've got cultural differences. You've got different languages that are used throughout this empire. It spans from North Africa to Eastern Europe. It's hugely different, but yet it was all controlled by the Ottomans. They've done a fantastic job to put this empire together, but now in tough times, how are they going to maintain it? And you'd have to say that the decline of the Ottoman Empire from 1815 onwards was one of the major reasons why the Congress system, or the Concert of Europe, actually failed. And you can see on the map, really, that Russia, a huge power in 1815, has its eyes on this territory. It has its eyes on the decline of the Ottoman Empire as an opportunity for Russia to take land. Britain is very much concerned with its trade routes along the Mediterranean, how it can transport goods through the Suez Canal through to India later on in the from 1850 onwards, how it can transport goods through the Mediterranean to its ever-expanding empire. Britain and Russia have interests in this area. Austria itself has interests in this area, and Austria is a great rival of Russia. And all of this territory, in Russia's eyes, certainly, is up for grabs from 1815 onwards. So how are the great powers going to stop Russia from exerting its influence here? And that would be a real challenge. And really coming out of all this, we have lots of other things as well. But essentially, that's one of the big issues, the decline of the Ottoman Empire, that we're going to be looking at. So in the course, the focus is a study of international rivalry and cooperation in Europe. And we're going to look at all of these themes over the 100 years, and we're finally going to conclude which one of these themes had the biggest impact on international relations in this period.